This is a side view of the cane, and after the first year, this cane has actually reached its full height and its complete diameter. So that's where you can actually go through and start to see maybe what kind of reed this is actually going to be able to become, just due to its size. Here we've got one of the field workers removing the unwanted cane. They do this so that the cane that's desirable is able to soak up all the nutrients. Here we have a cross section of the cane, and you can see that the spacing in between there, the gaps. How many of you have heard of internodal cane? Okay, some reed companies advertise internodal cane reeds. Well, it's actually the only cane that you can make reeds out of. So the nodes are no good for the reeds. So you use it in the internodal areas, and after the first year, as I said, these are as wide and as tall as they're going to be. So, how high does the cane grow? 15 feet. Nailed it. Distance between rows?
10 to 12.
All right. And why?
The reeds can blow.
Yeah, the reeds can blow, or the cane can grow, and it gains flexibility and strength. And anybody remember what that wind was called? Mistral. And I wouldn't be surprised if I'm somehow mispronouncing that, but that's anyway, so after 2 years of growth, that's when the cane is ready to be harvested. And Vandoren does this in the winter time for a very specific reason. It's during that point when the sap is at its lowest level, so it's not moving. And sap moving through the cane equals bad reeds, no vibration. So they harvest in the winter time. You might be surprised to hear that they do this all by hand. And there's a few different reasons for that. They've got specially designed clippers so that it doesn't burst fibers of the reed any more than it has to. And also, in these fields, you have cane of all different ages and maturity growing. So if you just took a tractor in there of some sort and just cut all the cane, you'd be getting a real mix of quality. So they only cut the cane that's ready to be cut. Here you can see them gathering it up. So this machine is basically designed to just strip all the cane and leaves and extra bark off of the cane itself, so that all you're left with are the poles, which you see here. So after they're stripped of all that extra stuff, they sun for about 3 to 4 weeks. And this is actually just for aesthetic reasons only. It's to give it that nice golden color that everybody desires. How many of you have had a green reed in a box before? They'll actually play pretty much the same, exactly the same. So you sun them just to get rid of that green, and they do that for about 3 to 4 weeks. No chemicals involved, it's just the sun. It's also, coincidentally, one of the first stages of quality control when they're going through and they turn these, the cane poles. Any cane that they see as unfit, they'll remove at that point. And actually only about 15% of the cane becomes a reed. The rest, the 85%, is either in that incinerator, like I said, or it's used for mulch and fertilizer. So after it's sun for a few weeks, they move them into these open air warehouses, which again take advantage of those winds in the south of France to just naturally dry this cane. So we've grown and we've harvested, dried the cane, sunned the cane. We're left with these poles and we're ready to make some reeds. So the first step is cutting those poles down to size. So here is really the first chance where you can really start to see what size reed are these going to be able to become. So maybe that one in the middle, maybe that's a clarinet reed. Maybe that other one on the left, the taller one, maybe that's going to be a bari saxophone reed. But this machine takes those tubes that have been cut down and it analyzes them for roundness and thickness by laser, and that helps kind of dump it into the right family of reeds. So once it does that, it drops into a tub, goes through this machine, which splits them into 4 blanks or pre-blanks, whatever you want to call it. There's another view of those. And these pieces are ready to be turned into reeds. Here they go into a machine that shakes them. There's some corn kernels in there. With friction, it rubs off any extra splinters or whatever, and essentially just kind of cleans the reeds and buffs them. And then they're ready to have the table laid on them. These wheels actually progressively smooth and flatten the reeds as they go from one wheel to the next. And again, as I said, these are measured down to the micron, so extremely, extremely precise. I should also point out that actually all of this machinery is unique to Vandoren, designed by Vandoren for Vandoren. They don't sell their machinery to other people. It's just used in the Vandoren factory. So here you can see the cane with the table now cut on. This is kind of a cool picture for a number of reasons. First, that's Bernard Vandoren, the president of the company on the left. And he's actually working on one of the reed models, which is shaped for the profile of each reed. It tells you everything that you need to know, or it gives all of those reeds each specific characteristic that they have. You can see along the bottom, that model is Cookie. And then up in the top right, that's Bernard and his son Robert some years ago, showing him the ropes. And that's Robert today. And again, Robert just joined the company a few months ago and will be beginning sort of an apprenticeship for the next 4 to 6 years, doing all the different jobs before he maybe goes into management or finds whatever he'd like to dedicate his work to. So again, this is the model that you saw Bernard working on, and the whole shape of that profile of the reed is laid on that model, and that's what all of the different cuts are based off of. You can see the uncut reed up at the top. Some of the different things they take into account. So here's a topical diagram of all the different reeds. You can see some of them have a steeper curve. That means that the relationship between that heart and the rails is the heart is higher up. So those are our 4 clarinet reeds there, with some dimensions along the right. The 56 Brula Peak and the V21 are a little thicker than even the V12. Here we've got the machine actually laying the profile onto the reed, and depending on how complicated each reed is, how many cuts it needs, there will be fewer or more cuts. So 150, that's just kind of a number. Some are going to take less than that. And again, this is machinery that's made by Vandoren for Vandoren. There's the reed without the tip, but the profile is laid on. How many of you have seen reeds like this that have kind of the tiger markings on them? You've all gotten those, right? How many of you prefer reeds that have those markings on? Anybody? Okay. All right. Some people, basically, just like the sunning of the cane, it's just for looks. It's aesthetic. What happened here is a leaf was maybe laid on the cane for a while. It got hot, and it just stained the cane. That's really all it is. So it doesn't have any bearing on the playing of that reed, but man, they look cool. That looks like a reed that I want to play. Okay, here's the machine cutting the actual tip onto the reed. And if any of you have seen our new reed trimmers, you'll notice that this is exactly how the reed trimmers work as well. So the concept was to bring what they're doing in the factory to a device that we can all use. cuts down from the top. The blades are self-sharpening, just like at the factory. This machine is actually measuring the strength, and I should say that back here, we still don't know the strength of this reed. It's gone through all of these steps, no idea. All the reeds are cut the same. This is testing the strength of the cane. And when I say strength of the cane, I mean just that. All the reeds are cut the same. All V12s are cut exactly the same. The strength 4s have the same thickness as the strength 2.5s. What Vandoren measures is the actual strength of the cane. And when they measure this, they get a number. Let's say it's 25. And for a strength 3 reed, there's a range. 20 to 30, that's a 3. So 25 is right in the middle. You're going to have some that are going to be a 22. They'll play a little softer. They still fall in that range of a strength 3. And that's why you'll notice sometimes you get reeds that are a little harder or a little softer in the box. There's a number of reasons they do this. For one, not everybody likes the same 25 reed. Some people want one that's a little harder. And from a practical standpoint, no store is going to carry 1,000 different reed strengths. So, but the point should be made that you can make just about every reed work by manipulating on your mouthpiece or so on and so forth. So after it's measured for strength, the logo and the strength are etched on the back with a laser, not engraved, it's etched, so it barely removes any wood. It doesn't affect the playability of that reed at all. And they're placed in a flow pack. As I said, all of our cane is grown, cut, dried, and packaged in the same place, same humidity. The idea of the flow pack is to keep that as these reeds are shipped all around the world. So that whenever you open that reed, wherever you are, it's going to be factory fresh. Here we have all of our different reed types. Some of them you may or may have not tried. The traditional, extremely flexible, great for everyone really. The V12, a little darker. It's favored among professional clarinet players. The 56 Rue Lepic along the bottom is a darker sounding reed, preferred among a lot of solo classical, maybe chamber groups. And then the V21 is actually a combination of the V12 and the 56 Rue Lepic. So it's a little darker than the V12, not quite as dark as the 56. The V21 actually stands for 2 in 1 because it's a combination of those two reeds. So it's all the rage right now, and I have plenty of samples for anybody that wants. Okay, on to some mouthpiece design. There are a lot of factors that go into making a quality mouthpiece. You've got the baffle, the chamber, the side rails, the tip rails, the facing length, the facing curve, the tip opening. But two of the most important were the last ones, the tip opening and the facing. This is one of our mouthpiece blanks being molded. It's on a lathe machine, and it's cut from, all of our clarinet mouthpieces are cut from ebonite, very hard rubber. And again, one thing to point out with all of these machines, there's a human being operating that machine. It's not a CNC machine, so there's that certain handcrafted quality to all of our mouthpieces. Here you see the mouthpiece is being buffed, everything except for the table of the mouthpiece. Once that's laid on, they don't touch it. It's so precise, the diamond cut blades, that facing is perfect, and they don't mess with it. Here you have high quality cork being placed on the mouthpiece. And then after all of this process, there's only so much the machine can do. So they have very highly trained professionals doing the hand finishing work on all these mouthpieces on the inside, the side walls, and the tip rail. So these workers train for over a year before they're allowed to actually officially start finishing the mouthpieces. And as it says, going where machines cannot go. Those are all the mouthpieces that guy finished that day? Not really. little bit about the Vandoren accessories here. We have the Optimum ligature, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with, and the MO ligature. They both utilize the same screw design that tightens from equally on each side to maintain equal pressure on the reed. Those are two of our top-selling ligatures. And then we've got the reed resurfacer on the right, which is great for flattening out the backs of your reeds after they become warped. The stick is really nice for doing more fine-tuning if you're into that sort of thing. And then the Hydro reed case, great reed case, whether you're in a humid environment or not. There's a little sponge in there. If it's too dry, a couple drops of water, it keeps your reeds from warping. And that is that. Again, I'm Michael from Dancer, and if you haven't already checked out our website, I encourage you to, Vandoren.com or Dancer.com, and maybe more than anything, Vandoren has a really cool app that you should all download. It's got all this information about the different mouthpieces and reeds. Very cool app. Check it out. Sign up for the Wave, our newsletter, if you'd like. And if you ever have any questions, don't hesitate to shoot me an email, michaelf@dancer.com.